Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. A couple nights ago, the Memphis Grizzlies got what was one of the biggest wins of their season, beating the Brooklyn Nets by double digits in a game where Kyrie and KD combined for almost 80 points. The Grizzlies did not have Ja Morant, and yet it didn't matter. And in that game, at the end of it, they were all celebrating because Desmond Bane had broken the all-time Grizzlies record for most three-pointers made in a season. They were celebrating, and I was kind of just watching all of this unfold and thinking about how special this Grizzlies team is, the run that they're on, and how really unique this whole thing is. Coming into the year, the Grizzlies last year had that really fun season where they made the play-in tournament and they ended up beating the Warriors in what was an incredibly fun game. They ended up going into Utah, beating the Jazz in the first game, and, going out in a pretty tough 5 games in the end, but the future looks super bright for the Memphis Grizzlies surrounded by Ja Morant. And then this season, they've completely exploded, going from kind of this up-and-coming, fun young team to a legitimate contender in the Western Conference. It's been a crazy rise to watch, and it's happened in just a few short years from when they started doing this rebuild. They drafted Ja Morant, they traded Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, and they kind of just really went all in on this rebuild. It didn't take them very long to get back to this point, and I kind of want to talk about why that's so special, and the way that they did it is so unique. This Grizzlies team is really different from how we typically see, especially small market teams, rebuild, and it came through a combination of some incredible luck and some great moves. So let's kind of go through that. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe while you're at it as well. It really helps me out. Now, when we talk about the luck side of things, by far the luckiest thing that happened to this Grizzlies team was getting Ja Morant. Heading into the 2019 draft where they got Ja, the Grizzlies had the 8th best odds in the lottery, and if you look at the lottery odds, that gives them just a 6.3% chance of getting the 2nd overall pick, which is a really unlikely selection. They've also got a little bit of a chance right under that to get the 1st overall pick, so there was around an 88% chance or so, or around 90, that they didn't get a 1st or 2nd overall pick and would have missed out on Ja Morant, Zion Williamson. If they like Ja that much, then probably still Ja, but they could have easily missed out on him. The odds were not at all in their favor. And if they didn't have that luck to get Ja Morant to be that superstar to build around, then this rebuild could still be going on right now. We could not see this Grizzlies team in the position that they're in. Maybe they got some other lottery luck and end up getting a star in one of the following drafts. But to get Ja Morant, it took a lot of luck. And that was really the luck that they needed to spur this thing forward. And not only did they take that luck and run with it, but they made such great moves to capitalize on that luck. To rebuild and ultimately win a championship in the NBA, it does take a lot of luck. The lottery is cruel. For example, the Thunder, who I'm always going to use as an example in this situation, have for the first time been kind of rebuilding since coming to Oklahoma City. When they first got here, they already had KD, they had just gotten Russell Westbrook, so the rebuilding the lottery stuff was kind of already over. And so this is the first time, and as I'm experiencing it, the lottery is really cruel. The Thunder had a really good chance, I think it was around 70% chance, to get at least one top 5 pick by having their own pick and the Houston Rockets pick top 4 protected. So if either the Rockets pick fell to 5 or the Thunders just stayed in the top 5, they would have had 1 and they had the chance to get 2 and instead ended up with just the 6th pick. So the lottery can be super, super cruel. The Grizzlies got really lucky and they took complete advantage of that. A lot of teams will get that lottery luck and kind of just squander it, making either a bad pick or ultimately not putting the talent around the guy that you get lucky to get in that draft. It happens all the time. I don't need to provide really any specific scenarios because I'm sure 1 or 2 came to the top of your head the second I said that. Now, obviously, it takes more than luck to win a championship. You've got to make great moves, and the Grizzlies have done exactly that. The year before Ja Morant, they got Jaren Jackson Jr. with the 4th overall pick, and he's been good. He's been really solid. His offense is still obviously coming along, but defensively, he is one of the better young defenders in the league. He's been arguably a top 5-6 defender in the league this season. Great shot blocker, rim protector. He's athletic, agile. He does really all the things they need from a guy to be the anchor of their defense. He's been great. And outside of those 2 guys, those are really the only highly touted lottery guys that they have on this team. Outside of that, all their contributors came from trades, came from late round draft picks, and that's part of what is making the Grizzlies so special. They don't have 4 or 5 all-star caliber guys. They've got 1 in Ja Morant and a lot of really solid young players that could potentially raise up to that caliber, but for right now are just solid role players that contribute a lot to this team and have kind of this identity of having a chip on their shoulder. Even Ja Morant he was not a highly touted prospect coming into college. Like coming into college, he had just kind of been discovered. There was that whole story of a coach just finding him randomly. I think when he was looking for chips or something like that, he went over to a different gym and just happened to notice Ja Morant, which got him to Murray State, which isn't a big name college or anything. He made a name for himself over the course of that season and did end up becoming the second overall pick, but it was a long journey for him to get there. And even then, there have been people that have been doubting him. So even with Ja Morant, who was a second overall pick, this team has a lot of chips on their shoulder. So we go through kind of the main contributors of this team. Desmond Bane, who has been their second, third best player this season and has really established himself as that shooting guard of the future for the Memphis Grizzlies. Like I mentioned, he just broke the Grizzlies franchise record for threes made in a season. That's incredible for a second-year guy, someone who's going to be in the most improved player conversation. I doubt he wins it because they never give it to second-year players. But the fact that Desmond Bane, this is his first real season of being this team's shooting guard. Last year, it was kind of like, figuring out like how much value he had, how much they were going to get out of him. And this year, he's completely exploded onto the scene. He's a perfect complement to Ja Morant. They got him at the 30th overall pick because he was older. He was a guy who spent a few years in college. And so coming out of the draft, he was looked at as kind of having a lower potential. So the Grizzlies took a chance on him with the 30th overall pick, seeing his shooting and the way that could fit with Ja Morant, and he is paid dividends immediately in just his second season. He looks like a guy that could potentially be an all-star at some point in his career. You've got Dillon Brooks, who has been one of their better perimeter defenders at the 45th overall pick that they traded for from Houston. He's been phenomenal while he's kind of had some health issues here and there this season. Over the course of the past few years when he is healthy, he's probably their best perimeter defender. He's one of those hustle guys that every championship team needs. You don't win championships without having some guy who's going to get in the opposing team's head, kind of run around, get in their head, make those hustle plays. That is what Dillon Brooks brings to this team. You've got Brandon Clark, who last year had a really down season. This year has completely made a return to form with the 21st overall pick. Steven Adams was a guy who, although he was a higher touted draft pick towards the start of his career, now has kind of been seen for the last few years as a center that's kind of not necessarily washed, but on the decline. And especially trading for him this past offseason, it was a trade that me and many others did not really like. Jonas Valanciunas, a lot of nights, was the Grizzlies' best player last season. Not saying he was better than Ja Morant overall, but there were a lot of nights where Valanciunas was super valuable to that Grizzlies team. So trading him for a guy in Steven Adams who didn't have a great year on like the Pelicans, It just didn't seem like it made a lot of sense, but it has. Steven Adams has been phenomenal. His screening ability, his underrated playmaking, his physicality brings a lot to this Grizzlies team and helps Ja Morant and the players around him become the players that they are now. His screening ability, his pick and roll talent with Ja Morant is huge to the success of this team's offense. His passing out of the high post around the elbow, it's super valuable. He's been phenomenal and such a great fit. I don't know if there are many centers in the league that would fit better on this team than the way that Steven Adams does. And not only did they get him in that trade, they got Zaire Williams because they moved up to pick 10, getting Zaire Williams, who has shown a lot of flashes this season. And this core is super young, so even though he doesn't have to contribute right now, which is super valuable, it gives him time to kind of grow and learn behind these guys and grow with this core. There's no pressure on him to immediately contribute, which is huge for him. You have D'Anthony Melton, who's been a great backup guard for them. They traded him to the Rockets for Dillon Brooks and then reacquired him in a trade from the Phoenix Suns for Javon Carter. And D'Anthony Melton is one of the better defensive point guards off the bench in the entire league. He's been great. Tyus Jones is one of the better backup point guards in the league as well. They signed him out of the G League. He spent a lot of time there after being with the Timberwolves for a bit, and he has one of the best assist to turnover ratios in the league, period. He's played such big minutes for them when Ja Morant has missed time this season. He just all around provides so much value, and he was a guy that was in the G League for a few years. Kyle Anderson signed in 2018 after a few years with the Spurs. Great pickup there. John Conchar, an undrafted free agent. Xavier Tillman, a second-round pick. You're probably noticing a theme here. It is a lot of really unheralded guys. It's second-round picks. It's G League guys. It's guys that are seen as on the decline or just role players that the Grizzlies have brought in, created this culture, and built such a great winning chemistry and team around a star in Ja Morant. They capitalized on that luck that you have to get to succeed in the NBA in such a big way. They have Taylor Jenkins, who's a great head coach for this team. it's been super like impressive to watch. And I think it's important to remember that part of the reason why this is special, this is the exception. This is not the rule. This is not the way it typically goes for small market teams. Typically, they've got to tank for years to get multiple top picks, and even then a lot of them don't work out. The Grizzlies have done this super fast, especially for a small market team. That's probably the biggest thing. The Grizzlies, Memphis is not a free agent destination, so they had to be super smart and calculated with all the moves they made, and they have managed to make, for years, the Grizzlies were kind of looked at as this team that had made a bunch of bad decisions. They've completely flipped that narrative on its head. The Grizzlies front office has been phenomenal building around Ja Morant, and I kind of just look at it as this is a super special and unique circumstance that we're seeing with the Grizzlies making this big jump as a small market team. It's part of what gives me hope for the Thunder is that us as a small market team, all we have to do is kind of get some of that luck, and hopefully the decisions will kind of fall into place. And it's part of why the Thunder are doing what they're doing now, securing all these draft picks, because you have to get lucky. So the more draft picks you get, the more chances you have to get that luck. Or if you don't get as lucky as you need to be, you have all these assets to trade up in the draft and rather than have luck, just kind of brute force your way into the player that you want. So that's kind of an insight into the way I'm looking at this in the realm of the Thunder, because of course that's how I look at everything. But I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how special this Grizzlies team is, the run that they're on, what they are doing, because it's not normal. This is not what we typically see in the NBA. We don't typically see rebuilds, turn around like this. We don't see small market teams make such big leaps in such little amounts of time. It's been super impressive to watch. I really enjoy watching this Grizzlies team. They really do all have a chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove, and they're absolutely proving themselves right now. Last night, they just had a massive win by like 30 points against the Pacers without Ja Morant again. They're one of the deepest teams in the league, and the way that they've built it has been super impressive. It's been special. And I kind of just want to talk about the Grizzlies for a bit. I tried to record this video yesterday and my mic was not on. I got to this point and I realized, so hopefully my mic is on this time. If you're seeing this, it probably was. But for right now, let me know what you think about the Grizzlies, what you think about the way that they built this team. I'm curious to know. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment that down below. I appreciate y'all watching, and I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.